Hello, beloveds. Welcome to this spontaneous oracle reading that is suited for this first quarter moon. Now, first quarter moons are all about taking action and realizing our intentions, realizing the opportunities that have arrived to direct us into that current of intention. So, before we even go any further, this is something that I always am challenged to do. I'm going to ask for you to help me with the algorithm so more people are reached with these videos. And if you haven't already and you want to, subscribe. Here, because I have not figured out exactly how to line up another camera to pick up this picture, here you can see that there are 3 different layouts of cards. And at the top of each one, you can see that there's a little totem. For the first deck, there is the totem of the turtle. And in the middle, you have a Shiva Lingam. And then here in the third deck, we have this shell. So the invitation for you is right now to tune in, what number resonates with you, 1, 2, or 3. And once you make that choice, you have now set into alignment with this message. And what this message is going to consist of is we are going to look at where your energy should be pointed, where the direction of the current is going. We're going to look at the shadow aspects of what is unrealized and maybe what is challenged right now. And then we're going to look at this last card as a reference point, as further instruction. So 1, 2, or 3. The turtle was 1, the Shiva Lingam was 2, and the shell was 3. So we're going to go ahead and begin with 1. Wow. Okay. So where you are heading is through the portal of rebirth. You're in an initiation. You have asked for something so magnificent, so incredible. And now it says a seat at the table. So you have been invited. The initiation has taken place. And this card is called the crowning, just like in birth. And so maybe that's what you're feeling. Maybe you're feeling like a bit of this contraction and yet an awareness that you're moving in the right direction, even if you don't see all the results of it. You've asked for something really, really big to change in your life. And now that's where your energy needs to stay no matter what you see surrounding. And I would even go as far to say is if you've planted this prayer for something really huge to shift in your life, to hold that close to your heart and maybe be cautious about who you share that with. You may not even want to share it with anyone until it comes into fulfillment, because you don't want to welcome their doubts. You don't want to welcome their casting of judgment over your field and to distort or create any confusion. So I can feel like the power behind that new moon, and with all of those first ray activations that came in, that you actually started lining up an energetic network that was going to carry you towards that. And you're probably feeling a lot of the challenge here. So let's see a little bit further. I'm not going to read all the way into all of these interpretations in the deck, just the ones that feel like they need a little expansion. So it says, there comes a time when the flower knows that it can no longer remain in the protective constraints of the bud. Somehow it needs to trust in the birthing energy and surrender to the unknown of the bloom. And so this speaks of the birthing in the physical and the metaphorical sense. And that if this card is crossing your threshold, that you are walking through the gates of an initiation, which requires great courage and faith. And that there are rolling contractions, and it's almost always not straightforward, right? Like it's a winding, it's a spiral. So as we transition from one thing to another, we're called to burst through the constraints of the seed and then the certainty of the bud, so that something new can bloom within. And what followed this card was the Puppet Master. And what I got from this was like really both on a collective level, breaking out of the status quo, breaking out even of the family structure. Maybe what have you've been told is right or is acceptable, or even what's expected of you. And you can see this like three-headed dog. That even feels like it's got some relevance there. And of course, I want you to connect with these cards individually and see what your interpretations are when you first get it. So this is the shadow. This is probably what you're encountering. This is probably what's unrealized, which in any initiation, what it's going to do is you're going to reach the breaking points where you're like, oh, I can't handle anymore. Oh, I can't do this, right? All of your limiting beliefs, your self-doubt, you'll be confronted with it. And so that's what this card is implying, is that you may be meeting it in the external world, but you also are probably having experiences that are going to provide you the opportunity to prove it to yourself, to actually prove that you are worthy, that you do have the capacity, and that you have the power and the resources to give birth to this new idea or self or creative function in the world. And then it comes with the message of the owl. And this is how we can support ourselves and what we need to know as we walk through this puppet master shadowy realm where you may even start noticing like certain forms of control, things that have had control over you. It could be substances, it could be relationships, it could be habits, it could be family, it could be a number of things that you maybe have started to pick up on. And now part of your initiation is to probably have the courage to see it as it is and to claim your responsibility there, to work out anywhere where you have some kind of like victim mentality around it, so that you can take full ownership of all of the resources that lie behind the deep. I know that this is right for me. I know, despite what other people think or say or what I'm experiencing, I'm going to stay with my truth, and I'm not going to self-abandon. And I'm also not going to be manipulated. That's the word that I'm connecting with strongly with the puppet master, is like manipulation. Are you letting anyone manipulate you? Are you manipulating anyone? That's another key factor here. So projection, distortion, the ego, and self-awareness. And the owl sees things as it is. It sees through the night, and it does challenge us to really trust. The initiatory path always involves a great deal of trust, because it's a stepping out into the unknown, which triggers fear, which calls forth this like quality that is a little bit beyond just our human. It's a quality of faith. And the owl has real versatility. in its neck. It's able to look in many different angles, different perspectives. You may even want to study the owl, study the movements of the owl, let it move through your body, study its habits. In particular, wherever you live, study the owls that are there on that land. That feels complete with that reading. There was nothing else that wanted to come through. I'll just double check here. The number 39 is associated with the owl card. So, perhaps that has some relevance. Maybe that's a number that may trigger your awareness to remember your sight, to remember to even practice. Practicing meditation will increase your focus, your alertness, your awareness. And the owl says, notice every detail, find the hidden messages, don't shoot the messenger, and be grateful to those that show you what you haven't wanted to see until now. So there's probably a lot of that in the field, that you might be getting some, while there's a lot of projection that's coming in, there's probably some shadow material that you need to separate out in that. And so you need to be able to identify what is yours and what is someone else's. And then you will stop attracting that. And therefore, you go through the full initiation process and you go and you have a seat at the table. All right, so number 1. Yeah, really celebrating this powerful new transit for you. Number 2, with the Shiva Lingam. So it has a little bit of this similar energy. It says, do it your way, embrace your uniqueness, and untamed. Let's see what the other cards here, so that you can get a full read. Oh, yeah, intense. I get a sense that this is definitely speaking to those of you who have always held back a little bit, who always have felt maybe a little inhibited, or at least you have in maybe this new chapter, you felt a bit inhibited in being your authentic self, letting your weird hang out. And being willing to I'm going to reference this card because there's a little bit of it feels like a block with it, and maybe that's the energy that's here. So the wild rose is where you're heading. The embracing of your uniqueness. Maybe your intention around the new moon was about being able to let go of some kind of hang up that you have about your personality, some kind of hang up you have about how you present. And the wild rose is saying, just grow, just blossom, just be yourself. And yet there's like this hesitancy, and we'll look at the shadow to find out a little bit more about really how that hesitancy is showing up. So this is taking you in the direction of being so whole and comfortable with your uniqueness that in the face of judgment, in the face of somebody making a comment about how you're acting, how you're presenting, what you're doing in the world, your work, whatever it is, instead of like it triggering something in you or it hitting like those shame or rejection wounds, instead it just reaches your ears and you go, oh, well, thank you. And you acknowledge it as you've now alchemized something that before was debilitating maybe to your ego, to your spirit. And now it's like, yeah, I'm doing it. It's almost like a righteousness that is born from you being liberated to be who you are. This transmission says, I free myself of what keeps me captive, and I allow the unique wildness within me to be free. So that's the energy that's here for you now. This is the timeline that you can focus on. Keep coming back to this. Yeah. It's what keeps you contained that causes harm. You weren't meant to fit in. So kind of like the first reading, fitting in is old world. Many of us have come here to evolve the world. So we need to stand out. We need to be separate. We're going to be on the outside of that. And to really marvel at your differentness and your weirdness as such a holy gift and responsibility and leadership, to really, just to like be in awe of how you have been given this very specific, special quality of your being that is here to create a whole new world. And only you have that very specific quality in a certain sequence, in a certain expression, with a certain energy behind it. Only you, out of all of the people. And so you really need to own that. You really need to like keep seeding that, keep remembering that. Let's take a look at the challenge and the shadow, the unrealized here. We have the lizard. And when I think of lizards, I think of heat. I think of like being very heat resistant. So I can see that there's some opportunity too. Like they say, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And this might be your practice in how to build up that tolerance. That's the word that's coming. Your tolerance to heat, your tolerance to judgment. And how do you really trust the voice within over the voices on the outside, or even voices on the inside that have been very critical, that have come from the outside originally. So you have the lizard here, anything that comes up for you. It's also got a cactus there with some blooms on it. So that may mean something to you. This says repeating a cycle and unlearn lessons. So this could be a really challenging experience, but it's one that you've had experience with before. And if you can dial in to notice what are the repeating patterns, where have I felt this, seen this, heard it, experienced it before in my life, start to track it. Because what you also have here is you have the jaguar, and the jaguar is a master tracker. It's a master tracker in particular for nighttime. So it's a totem that can walk with you through these darker realms and through the unrealized self, through your personal shadows. And the other thing associated with the lizard is it's like the regeneration, right? So what do you want to regenerate? Do you want to regenerate gifts, or do you want to regenerate curses? Do you want to regenerate these limiting cycles, or do you want to move into a new cycle of generation? Which is going to require you to track. That feels clear to me in this message, is that it's inviting you to turn on your tracking skills, start using a little bit more effective energy. So maybe you've been a little ungrounded and you're needing to get in touch with the earth, get your feet on the ground, really connect in with your intuitive sense that comes through your body and can come through your connection with the earth. So it may be helpful to work with any kind of herbs, crystals, or plants that have a very grounding effect to them. Yeah. Are you at a crossroads? And if you are, where have you experienced that before? This also brings some wisdom to acknowledge that life happens in cycles. It doesn't happen on a linear path. And there seems to be some kind of magic in also recognizing that, because then you might start seeing other patterns. You might start tracking other aspects of cycles, seasons, that will make you sharper and more distinct, more intuitive, and more trusting in your authentic self. And the medicine with this card is number 28, so keep your eye out for 28. That may be a activation number for you to gain more awareness. It asks what in your life needs to be released, and what have you carried around with you for far too long, which is ready to be let go of once and for all. The jaguar is a medicine available to heal the fear so you can allow it to go. It's time to come out of the shadows and in the shadow games that you may have unconsciously agreed to play. You can call on the jaguar to unfetter you from toxic relationships and recover your natural instinct for the right people and situations. So in this moment, I'm just calling in and claiming that. And I invite you to do the same. And calling on that spirit, call on the jaguar to be a partner with you in tracking and releasing and moving beyond those fears that occur when we're willing to change. So, number 2, Shiva Lingam. Become your most untamed, wild, beautiful, odd self. We need you so much. All right. And if you chose number 3 with the shell, you are asking to embrace the seasons, to trust the change, that you are in the cycles of life, the transition and the growth. So it's so interesting with all 3 of these. It's like I can see the pattern in all 3 of these. I'll speak to it after this reading. What do you get? What do you get when you look at this? It reminds me of ancestral. It's like multidimensional. And what season can you identify the season that you're in? What is the transit? It comes with a guidance to be aware of the crow. Anything you get from that? That doesn't look like a crow to me. That actually looks, I guess that looks like a crow. It looks a little bit like a duck as well. So we'll read the crow first. That feels like it's the priority at the moment. And trust the seasons. Oh, dear number 3, I hear you. I see where you're at. You are in the death portal. So number 1 was in its birth. Number 2 was in its embrace and letting go. And it looks like you have done that, or you're being forced maybe to do that, dealing with death. But what's also active here is psychic abilities. So while you have the shadow of death and everything that concerns that, it seems very relative to the inner child and what the inner child is experiencing. You may need to speak to this part of yourself and help them understand and really comfort that the younger parts of you that feel uncomfortable about that level of change or completion. Yeah. So in that state, as some of you may know, When we die, we release a chemical in the brain called DMT, and this is like, they also call it the spirit molecule. And it becomes a chemical by which the soul is able to see its way home. And what you might be experiencing is a bit of a metaphor of that, is as you go through a death, you may also be having an increase in like psychic ability, psychic messages. Generally when someone passes, there's this enlivening of psychic awareness as well. When somebody has a near-death experience, again, because that DMT is activated, they have access to all the higher centers. That channel is opened. So you may be going through something like that as well. And I'm just going to see if there's any other medicine here in the shadow part. Yeah, this is saying to think about working with some plant allies medicinally, especially the ones that require darkness to thrive. Yeah. So if that's something that you do, if you work with the little allies that tend to thrive on death, then this could be an ideal time to call on their support, whether that's, physically, or you're just energetically calling that allied support in. Because what's going to come from that is an emergence of some really great gifts. And the energy that you need to stay present to, what you have put yourself on the path for, and that wants more of your attention, what's growing through this is it's the trust the seasons. I just wanted to see what it said in here. Your body's going to have a memory about fear and death and safety, and there are going to be higher faculties of yourself that are going to ask you to still move through it, and to go beyond your edge, to go beyond where you're comfortable, particularly in accepting anything that's dying or is dead or has completed. I get a feeling there's a bit more of that maybe there's been like a lingering of something that's far been dead. And this is putting you on a path to realize the cyclical, beautiful nature of recreation, that even in death, nothing is ever lost. And to feel the power of being in right relationship with nature, which can come through first just establishing connection with the cycles like the moon, with the cycles in the seasons, with the cycles internally in the womb, and to not resist it, to not try to force something, to not try to latch on to something. How can you embrace the changing season in your life? So you're currently experiencing a lot of medicine that's helping you to do that, to become masterful even in embracing those seasons in life. And it might be coming through doing some inner child work. We've got the 7 here too, so this might even track you back to about that age. Maybe it was womb to 7 or 7 to 14. You might be working somewhere in that timeline of your history. Or 7 may be an activation number for you to bring your awareness to these things. This card also says that the child knows the way to joy and happiness. The child offers a return of a second innocence in a time born of wisdom, not naivety. This card allows you to correct your course and offers you a second chance. It brings you the possibility of redemption and entering heaven while on earth. The child comes to show you how you can correct the course of your life without being punished. Set yourself free from your conditioning for suffering. You were born unfettered and happy and can be so again if you make the choice right now. The child will help you climb out of the hole you may have dug yourself into to recover your sense of play. So to me, I get this strong indication that you have been asked or you are being asked to let something go. And in order for you to not be reprimanded and to create more suffering for yourself and anyone else, you have to maybe soothe your child with the conversation that nothing ever completely dies. And understanding that everything is cyclical in nature and nothing more in the universe can be created and nothing can ever be destroyed. That all it does is change. And so when we start to deeply understand that by looking at the seasons and connecting with rituals where we watch, like water, you put heat underwater and it turns to vapor. Or you take something and you burn it in a fire and it becomes, ashes. When you start to see the reality that you're not actually losing anything, the child may start to feel more comfortable, more willing to be in that discomfort. Be willing to believe that there is more. There's not an ending. There's just a different experience with it. So you're heading towards supreme trust and understanding of natural order. Woo! I really enjoyed this. This is something that I have been guided to continue on each quarter moon. So first quarter and last quarter moon. And I find it such a thrill to look at these 3 different readings. And you have one where you're crowning, where it's all about being in the becoming. And then you have the wild rose. It's about really like dropping the stuff that is preventing you from the realized self, the realized achievement of the new birth. And then you have this trust in the seasons. That is you already embarked on that transformative journey. So it's just like different stages of a journey here. But it's the same journey. Which is life, right? If you like this, please hit like, share it, subscribe, do all of the things. And I'll look forward to meeting with you again next week for the standard full moon, not standard, I mean, it's super special, right? The full moon reading. And until then, keep it pure and stay simple. Pura vida.